Howdy, it's tubalcain, your YouTube shop teacher again. Welcome back, and I have a lot of things to cover in this episode of This and That. But let me start out by talking about my YouTube silver button here that I've had for 2 years already. And at this point I had 100,000 subscribers, and the clock is ticking, and it's just about to turn 200,000. So click on the subscribe button. You could be the lucky one to be the 200,000th, as if there's any significance to that. So thank you for doing that for me, and keep watching. Just a bunch of things I want to cover now. Let's start out with viewer appreciation gifts, and there's a bunch of them, so bear with me. And thank you so much for everyone that sends stuff and participates in my channel and supports me. The other day I received a box from one Mr. Doug Bollinger, and he sent things to me before, some little drill bits, and I appreciate it, and thank you, Doug. But what he sent in this box here is I got one open already, and they're in different colors, deep hole markers. They're from Germany. I've never seen them before. We got 3 colors here. I got the black one open. But the purpose of these is to allow you to do layouts, let's say in deep holes. There's probably a lot of other uses, but for instance, if you take the average Sharpie here and attempt to mark inside of a hole, it's not too bad for a shallow hole. That's going to work. But as you get into deeper holes here, for instance this bushing here, you know, it just doesn't work very well. Well, it didn't work at all that time. Didn't work too well. But with these markers, look at this, almost like a hypodermic needle. Isn't that neat? These must cost a king's ransom, but they will reach down into a hole such as this. Well, that's a shallow one. But let's get into some deeper bushings here, thicker, deeper, and then even the real deep one. What, that's about 1.25 inches or so. Now this is only for semi-accurate marking anyway. It's not like using a scratch-all or a scriber, but that's pretty neat. Thank you for that, Doug. And do not confuse Doug with Jim Bollinger, the wonderful creator that wears the big cowboy hat. Maybe they're cousins. Thank you ever so much to Sam Schublum, who gave me this Cameron micro drill press. Do not confuse that again with this one over here. So now I have twins, but this appears in several videos. I don't know if I have them on yet, but this may be a repeat for some of you. But you know, I love these little micro drill presses. When Sam sent this, it did not have the chuck on it. The chuck was missing, and from the factory they put Albrecht chucks on it. So when I was up to see Ron Cox in Indiana, he gave me a brand new Albrecht super chuck. That's the very smallest size that they make, which is what, a number 15. And I did a video on that, installing it and making wedges and all of that. So check those videos out, and you'll be seeing more of this as I use this for my pilot hole. I just love this. I keep it right on the bench, and I got a speed control for this and the other one, but now it's equipped with an Albrecht chuck. Well then, the belt is very frayed on here, and I had just recently bought a belt for this one. You can see the different color there, but I got an email from another man. Joe Dernia said, I have some of these little belts, might they fit your drill press? So they're a little bit long, but I think I can make them to fit by extending this shaft here a little bit. So thank you to him as well. So you can see people really come together, and this is really a collaboration between 3 people to bring this thing back and up to speed. So I thank them all for that. 17,000 people have watched this video where I go to Indiana and pick up a South Bend shaper given to me by Ron Cox. And here's some of the original paperwork that came with it. It had the actual manual from 1952. and in the original envelope was serial number and all of that, and the parts list. So how awesome was that? And thanks again to Ron for everything that he's done. But once people see the videos like that, I get a lot of people pulling together, and here's what we have now. Let me shut that phone off. And thank you to the other Ron who spent a whole day with me, 12 hours, and drove up to Indiana to help get that. But then Roger Taylor, who's an old shop teacher, he calls himself the old metal shop teacher from California, and he sent me several things. So look at this. He sends me a box, and inside the box is a crate. Now it took me 10 minutes to get this thing open because it's all nailed shut, and I've already had this open. I'm just unboxing it again just to show you the great job that he did on this. You can tell he was a shop teacher. But this is an original vise by South Bend, and there was no vise with the shaper. So now I have a vise, and thank you, Roger. But look at the way he had this crated. There were two carriage bolts that held it into the crate, and this box, in spite of our post office service, arrived in perfect shape. So I'm thankful to the post office and to Roger. So you'll see this at some time mounted on the shaper. I'll clean it up a little bit, but it doesn't need a whole lot of work. It needs a bolt right here and some keys, and it's ready to go to work. So, and I guess I had forgotten how small the vise is that goes on a South Bend shaper. It's, you know, it's a 7-inch shaper, so naturally it's got a 4-inch vise in proportion, a little bit smaller than what Steve uses or Adam uses, but it's a nice unit. I guess these are hard to find, but I've got one. Bernard Christensen from Neenah, Wisconsin sent me an unusual item. You know, Neenah, did you ever walk across a manhole or a sewer or catch basin or something? I think everyone ever made was cast up in Neenah, Wisconsin. But in this little box here, new old stock. Before I pull it out, let me show you here in the original Delta catalog what this item is. That's from 1958 there, I believe. This is a sanding attachment that can be put on a 14-inch bandsaw. So there it is, 28-810, a sanding attachment that will fit onto the 14-inch bandsaw, which includes some platens, and then there's the sanding belts. I doubt that they are available anymore, but they were a 1/2 inch wide by 91 inches long. So let me show you what's in the little box. There's the original paperwork and documentation for it. It includes a new throat plate that's just a little wider than what you use for regular blades, and these are the platens. One is flat and the other is convex, along with a little mounting piece. And let's go over to the bandsaw and show you how that works. You would of course take the blade off and remove the guides, use this throat plate, and then the little platen would go in here like this. And I would suspect those sanding belts would have a lifetime of up to 30 seconds before they broke. And speaking of Albrecht chucks, someone told me recently that if you're running your machine in reverse, for whatever the reason is, that these Albrecht self-tightening, not self-tightening, but keyless chucks can really jam on you, so you absolutely cannot get them to free up or to back off. So I don't know if that's true or not. I never ran one in reverse. Thank you to Paul St. Marie from the great state of Washington for sending me these 2 thread micrometers. And as he explained, the only hitch here, this is a Starrett, they're both Starrett, is that they are for the United States standard, and on the other one it says something similar. V, an American standard, and that's anywhere from 22 to 30 threads per inch. So that thread form, I think, was a sharp V, just a little different than what we're used to, and he enclosed a sketch explaining all of that. So I'll have to try to absorb that, but thank you, Paul. You know I'm a big fan of Logan lathes, and I was recently in Harvard, Illinois to visit my buddies. There was a Christmas party at a Luma Tank. You've watched those videos. But I decided I'm going to stop into Logan Actuator, and there I am standing with Scott Logan. And he now runs Logan Actuator, but his grandfather, Henry, started the Logan lathes. And let me say a few things about that. On the wall was mounted a bronze plaque from the original Logan factory in Chicago. Now it's out in the suburbs. So I thought that was neat that they salvaged that. But look at these pictures up here. Those are the actual actuators. This is from 1938, and that's even before they made lathes. I'll talk about those in a second. Scott had some neat pictures on the wall, and this is an aerial view of the Chicago factory. And again, this was started by his grandfather, Henry Logan, and then his dad's name was George, and finally we have Scott. But he told me, there's another view of the plant, that his grandfather's real passion was this Lilly hoist control, and that was used in mines, such as coal mines, to control the speed, or, oh, I called it a governor. I don't think that's the correct word, but it was a safety device to keep the hoist that the men were raised and lowered in control the speed and all of that. So that was the passion. And then from reading something on the internet, I was just so surprised to find out that Montgomery Ward contacted Logan and wanted to see if they would make lathes that would compete with the Atlas lathe that Sears sold. So originally they were selling strictly Powercraft lathes, and then later put them under their own name, and they sold 90,000 of them. So I was so glad I stopped in there to meet Scott Logan, and we talked for about 20 minutes. He told me some real interesting things. So thanks for spending that time with me, Scott, in case you're watching this. Time for me to rant just a little bit. I'm always complaining, I know, about, you go to use your flashlight, it won't work. Well, I had a heck of a time even getting this open because, of course, the leak-proof battery leaked. So I'll just throw this away. But you know what? I got out some brand new batteries here, and I think I'm wrong. Nowhere does it ever mention anymore that they're leak-proof. That was really a big selling point there, because they know they're going to leak. They all leak. Some of them leak in the package, which I showed in a recent video. But just nothing said they're about leak-proof. And I remember when I was 10 years old, my Sunday school teacher, Mrs. Hurst, gave me a flashlight. It was a Roy Rogers flashlight. Oh, how I loved that thing. And down here there was a siren. You could blow on this, and it sounded like a police siren. Just loved that thing. I went to use it one day, and I opened it, and it was the same thing as this. I was just broken-hearted. See if you can hear me. See if you can hear the sound as I throw this in the trash. I know I'm rambling, but some people have asked me, I can't find a certain video. Where is that? Well, I have complete lists here of the videos, but you will see that from time to time, as I go from page to page here, I'm filling in. Because I'm trying to keep things in groups, but it doesn't always work. So there's all kinds of blank areas that haven't been filled in. Here's some where I filled in with a pencil. And yet there are a bunch of these that are unpublished yet at this time, including, well, I don't know, there's a lot of them. 20 aren't even published. So people are sometimes looking for those numbers. They can't find them, and that is why. I hate to bore you with this because I've talked so much about my micrometer teaching aid here. I made 10,000 of them. Do you remember that? But I just got an email a couple days ago from one Mr. Jacob Lehman, and he's an assistant professor of manufacturing at Pittsburgh State University. That's in Kansas, Pittsburgh, Kansas. But he said that when he came to the shop, this is my old advertising here, so he didn't send me that picture, but when he came into that laboratory there was the original micrometer. He said it's in quite good condition. He uses it every semester in his class. And I know this is an early one because it's on a wooden stand. For quite a while, now for the first 100 or 200 units, I made them with yellow poplar stands, and I had to stain them and varnish them. It was quite a job, so eventually I eliminated the stand. But there it is on the original stand, which means this one was made prior to 1972 because it's still got my original address when I still lived in Peru. So I thank Jacob so much for sending that to me, and I'm just shocked that some of these are still in use, and at a university level, no doubt. I never did get back to this 3D printing, but there are videos coming on this in regards to this drill index and some of these stands for the drill press where we can put our oil cans and things like that. So that's still coming up. As you know, I made quite a long series of videos on converting a Delta bandsaw into a metal cutting. Well, Mr. Ellie Price from North Carolina did such a conversion, and there you can see the motor on the bottom. There's another shot of it. Thank you for the pictures. And here is his actual mechanism, and he made a wooden pulley, a large wooden pulley. And a guard for it all, and there's the tensioning device. And some information on the back of the saw regarding the speed, so that you can see its complete range of speeds there. Thank you for that, Ellie. I was looking through this old general shop book a few days ago, and I just saw some pictures that I wanted to share with you because it shows young boys in shop classes the way it was when I went to school and the way it was when I taught school long before cell phones and all these stupid video games. I won't narrate that, but just take a look at some of these pictures. They may not have safety glasses, so don't worry about that. Just enjoy the pictures and how it used to be. There's a group of boys proudly displaying their birdhouses. There are some boys learning the foundry process. Look at how intently that boy is looking at that little shaper. And there were projects near the back of the book. They'd laugh you out of the place if you told them to build a crystal set. And oh, how I enjoyed making my first electric motor. I watched a recent video where Randy Richards made a rack for his monitor. Most of the creators use a monitor in their shop so we can watch what we're doing. Well, this monitor hit the ground I don't know how many times as it fell down when I tripped over the cord. So I went to Harbor Freight and I bought this rack. I wasn't going to make one from scratch like Randy. That was $10 for that rack, and it swings out of the way. I got it mounted on the back of the bandsaw so I can use it from two different positions. And I liked that so much that I went back to Harbor Freight and I bought another one. Well, the first one was $10 with a coupon, but you know, by the time I got back there it was $15, but I didn't care because that's still a reasonable price. And I'm going to mount it up here on the wall, and that's where the original monitor sat when I knocked it down 3 times, and the base broke off of it, but it still works fine. So that might be an idea for some of you. I don't have a regular TV down here. I don't want a TV. That's strictly a monitor for filming. Now I'm going way off topic now, but there might be 10 of you out there that find this interesting. And this picture was sent to me recently. A man bought it on eBay. We went on an epic boat trip, and here's the old scow that we're in, starting in Les Salles, and we went clear to Florida. We were heading to the Bahamas before the darn thing broke down, and you can see what a wreck it is. Looks like the wreck of the Hesperus. But there I am, still in college. Look at how skinny I am. And there's my brother, who is now in the rest home with a stroke, and Johnny Edwards is dead. But that was quite an adventure. But I lost all the slides. There were hundreds of slides that I took. I don't know what happened to them. So this is really the only picture, and it appeared in the newspaper. The picture was taken by a reporter, and on the back, I'm going to flip it over and show you what is on the back. This was the clipping that was in the newspaper along with the picture. And we went to a machine and bought this paper the next day, but I don't know what happened to the original. So, you know, these reporters, this is 1966, were looking for something, so we said we ran out of water. You know, there wasn't exactly a lot of restaurants along the Mississippi River, and we're finally in New Orleans now. I believe we're right near a lock at Lake Pontchartrain, but we were talking about running out of water and that we had to boil our Vienna sausages and beer. Well, they made that a headline. Well, how did I get this original picture? Like, this is just too amazing. This came out of the files of the New Orleans paper, or the Times, or whatever it was. New Orleans 40. There's no zip codes yet. And we're just young guys. Well, my friend in Webster Park says that he does a search every day on eBay for local things, and this showed up. He bought this picture, and this is a photograph here. That is not a Xerox like this is. So that is the photograph that they used, and it was taken, I think it was kind of dark out, so you see they did some touch-up work there around our heads to make us stand out from the dark background. And we all had beards because we'd already been home gone from home for about 3 weeks. It was a 6-week trip. And there's my brother, and we were just as skinny as can be. My brother and I together weighed what Johnny did. So when we slept every night on the boat virtually. Johnny was on one side, and my brother and I on the other side in bunks that we built so that the boat wouldn't list. That way it was fairly level when we were sleeping in those mosquito-infested bayous. All right, that's enough on that. This is Jim Deadman, so get on over to his channel and watch some of his videos, simply called Jim Deadman. And here he's making something for me, and you might recall that he's the one that made these spill-proof oil cans for me and several other creators, but take a look at what he did here in regards to making these spinning handles for the vices. Well, Jim made a handle for this little Kurt vise, but these are hex, and he didn't really know what size this was, so he made it too large. This would fit like the 6-incher. So I said, well, that doesn't fit. Well, no problem. And he makes another one. Now, what he does is take like a 6-point socket and inserts it into the body of the crank that he makes, and it's got a spinning handle, and that fits just perfectly on the little vise. And then to carry it one step further, this is a 5-inch Bridgeport vise, and he asked me what size square this was, and made up a handle that is square. Now, he didn't use sockets there, went a little bit different route by drilling holes to make a square hole. So now I got a crank for this as well. So thank you, Jim, for that and all the trouble and work you went to. I recently got some stickers from Mr. Joe Way, so go on over to his channel and check out Sierra Special Auto. He's making some shop videos as well. Thanks for that, Joe. Many of you met Wayne Fitch at my meet and greet. He's from the Fort Worth, Texas area. And remember, he's the man that gave me, or I guess we swapped for that nice Kurt vise, but he's quite a woodworker. And I had given him a rammer, and he said he'd make another one. He's a good wood turner. He made a beautiful little top for my grandson Henry, little top out of, I'll think of the kind of wood in a minute. And he made some beautiful hand mirrors, one for my daughter, one for my wife, one for my granddaughter, just gorgeous, out of zebra wood and other exotic woods. Well, he made this little rammer, and it's kind of tongue-in-cheek because he claims he's still going to make a full-size one, but this is made of ebony. Now, why it's 2 colors, I don't know. Lignum vita was the top for my grandson. Lignum vita, the wood of life. But this is ebony, and I'm going to start doing some real small work in the foundry area, so I need a real little rammer to ram that Petrobond sand, and you see how nice that works in a small flask. and get around the edges with this. This wood is so dense that it does not float. I put it in a glass of water and it sinks like a rock. So thank you for that, Wayne, and I appreciate your workmanship and that. Just a heck of a nice job. And the same with the other projects that you sent to members of my family, and Henry really liked the little top. You know, you should have seen the look on his face. And I know that Wayne kind of fell in love with that little boy, and I don't blame him, because he's sure precious and means a lot to all of us. Thank you, Wayne. I know I speak for the entire YouTube community, creators and those of you that are out there viewing, and you know that A-Bomb, that is Adam Booth, A-Bomb 79, has stepped out on his own, retired from his job and setting up his shop and going to go YouTube and visiting and just all of these things instead of a full-time job, and we wish him the best of luck. God bless you, Adam. We all love you. I know you personally, and I've met him several times. He's just a wonderful guy. I know he'll succeed. I know it's hard work, and he'll work harder than ever, because no one is a harder master than one's own self. So good luck to you, Adam, and be sure and help support him now, you folks out there in YouTube land. And thank you for watching this very long and wordy video. And this is tubalcain saying so long for now.